It's usually short, actually.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock, and I'd like to call to order the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust meeting of June 7th. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the May 24th meeting. It's been in your packet. Are there any questions or comments regarding the minutes? Is there a motion for approval? Motion second, please vote. Passes unanimously. Next up is the consent docket. There are a number of items on the consent docket. Some number of change orders, a couple of agreements. Does anybody off the trust like to pull one of the items for individual consideration? Mr. Stone, do you have any comments about the feral hog situation at Lake Draper?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. With that, is there a motion to approve the consent docket? We have a motion and a second, and it's approved unanimously. There's no concurrence items. There is no emergency construction items. And so under item 6A, we have a presentation from PFM Financial Advisors on a revenue bond refunding. Dennis Whaley?
That was quick.
Good
Good afternoon.
government does not have to be a lengthy process.
Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Whaley with PFM. Also have Jen Ark here with PFM, and we're the financial advisors to the water utility. We have a presentation today that there we go. So if you have it on your screen there, we're on now page 2. So we'll begin with a little history about Aquit and its debt financing. Aquit issues revenue bonds to finance its CIP, large projects. The bonds are typically issued for 30 years, which matches the life of these long-lived assets. and the bonds are typically sold in the public market. And this is done through an underwriter team, which is selected for a bond sale that is done on a negotiated basis. A mini RFP for pre-qualified underwriting firms was circulated yesterday, and responses are due early next week, and then there will be an evaluation of those responses on Tuesday or Wednesday. If any of the trustees would be interested in participating in that evaluation process, we'd be glad to have you as part of the team. Just let us know. Aquit achieves very low interest costs because you're a AAA rated utility. There's not very many AAA rated utilities, so it's something to be very proud of. The reasons for you being AAA rated are your strong financial policies, 2x coverage, a strong cash position, and your long-term financial planning, which y'all have done an excellent job of looking out not only 3 to 5 years, but looking at 10 to 15 years to make sure that you don't have that cliff out there, because nobody wants the cliff. Another thing that the rating agencies cite as a credit positive is the leadership of the trustees, a very active board that keeps a close eye on the activities of Aquit, as well as the executive staff of Aquit, Chris, Brett, Vanessa, and their teams, who do a wonderful job on the ground of staying on top of all issues, especially where I'm involved, the financial issues. Another thing we do with Aquit bonds is we have a call date, a 10-year call date, and that 10-year call date is like refinance, giving you an opportunity to refinance your mortgage in the future. That call date means if we issue 30-year bonds, we are able to refund them after 10 years for debt service savings. That will be something we'll talk about more for this bond sale. One other thing to note for those that don't spend your life doing this, there was tax reform passed in 2018. Used to, you could do an advanced tax-exempt refunding. Now you can't do that anymore. You can only do a taxable refunding if it's more than 90 days prior to the call date. And the transaction we're looking at today is a taxable refunding. That will be a taxable refunding of the Series 13, 15, and 16 bonds. So why do we want to do this refunding? Well, one, it provides debt service savings. The cash flow savings from this transaction is almost $33 million, and that was as calculated in late May. It also allows for us to make some immediate adjustments to your indenture, which is another thing that's very important considering you're going into a period of a very large CIP for the Atoka pipeline. The amendment we want to make is for each supplemental indenture to have an optional debt service reserve fund. So in times where we can not fund that debt service reserve fund, it will be a savings to Aquit. If markets change in the future and it becomes the norm to have a debt service reserve fund, each issue could have one if necessary. It is now the market norm for highly rated utilities, and you're as highly rated as possible, to not have debt service reserve funds. We have found that investors, of course, and the rating agencies are comfortable with highly rated utilities moving forward without a debt service reserve fund and have not seen a negative impact on pricing of their bonds. After this transaction, we would take the monies that are currently in the debt service reserve fund and use them to reduce outstanding debt. One thing to note going forward, we've estimated that for every $100 million of commercial paper that you refund, and as you build Atoka, you will be building up this debt, that when we refund it, you'll save about $5.9 million over the life of each series of bonds you issue by not having the debt service reserve fund. And that's a significant savings to ratepayers. So once again, the refunding will offer about $33 million in cash flow savings over the next 25 years. Each year, it'll be a savings of about $500,000 to $1.6 million going out to 2047. And a really good thing to note, and something y'all should be very proud of, is in 2020, through several transactions, and you saved about $42 million for the ratepayers of Aquit. After this transaction, and with the savings you'll see going forward from no debt service reserve fund, we will have saved over $100 million for Aquit ratepayers over those 2 years, 20 and 22. That's something to be very proud of, I think. So we'll be refunding 3 series of bonds on a present value basis, which is separate from a cash flow basis. The transaction has a $12.7 million savings, which is 4.5%, which meets your policy guidelines. But what that number, when you run your numbers through your model, which is what we all use to do a transaction, doesn't take into the account the fact that you just freed up $25 million in debt service reserve fund money that you would have not had access to had you not amended your indenture to provide for bond issuances without a debt service reserve fund. So I think that's a,
Okay, so it's 12.7 for a 4.5% savings net of the, does that include the debt, the refunding the
but you
reserve
would
fund?
add the debt service reserve fund cash release to that, and now you're up to 30-some odd million dollars.
All right. And remind me what the policy is. You said it's within the
3%, is that correct?
3%, it's 4.5.
3?
Great.
So key dates, and something you'll notice is we're moving quickly. We're putting together the offering documents right now. We'll have rating presentations here in a couple of weeks with Moody's and Standard & Poor's. Today, we're doing an introduction to the Aquit trustees and are asking for preliminary approval of this transaction. We will come back with dual docketing on June 21st, go to council in the morning, and come back with some items for Aquit in the afternoon. Why are we moving so fast? Rates seem to be moving higher, and I think they'll continue to move higher over the course of the summer, so the sooner we can get to market, the better off I think we'll be for this transaction. Then we plan to price bonds on July 12th and close the transaction on July 26th. Thank you, and I'll answer any questions.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Whaley? It's a good opportunity. Glad we're
I think
taking
it's a very
advantage
good
of it.
opportunity. Yes, sir.
All right. Item A2 is a resolution authorizing the general manager or designee to proceed with the refunding of certain outstanding revenue bonds of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust, including preparation of a preliminary official statement and solicitation of ratings, authorizing the general manager or designee to distribute a solicitation of underwriters from the pool of pre-qualified underwriters for the issuance of utility system revenue refunding bonds, authorizing the general manager or designee to approve, ratify, and affirm professional service agreements related to the bond and financing professionals and containing other provisions related thereto. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Any items from trustees this afternoon? General manager reports, Mr. Browning?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 very important things that I need to take care of. First of all, Trustee Stone Cipher, happy belated birthday. Trustee Stone, happy birthday. Hope you all have and had a great day. So thank you so much for your service. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I'm not aware of any citizens to be heard. Therefore, we are adjourned.